What's up, guys? Just give me a second here before we start. I'm trying to share this um, very unprofessionally to Twitter, and you would think that I would have done that ahead of time, although it seems to be not the case. Um, Geez, man, talk about unprofessional. Now I think my alarm is going off in the background. But what's going on, guys? It has been a little while now since I did the Ravens watch. I think my last guest would have been Sublime, which was a really cool episode. That's the guy that started a church in Alberta, Canada, I believe, and he had a bunch of really interesting stories about one in particular that I remember was a pastor that used to be a New Age guy and ended up becoming a pastor and then going back to being a New Age guy, and in the end, sort of being possessed. Um, Geez, I'm so bad. I'm trying. I'm sorry, guys. I'm like super distracted here. I love how I haven't had anything to do all morning, and somehow I'm still like down to the wire with this. I just pulled my coffee out of the microwave to like reheat it for 30 seconds and then scrambled in here. I've got nothing going on, and I still managed to be just unprofessional and disheveled ultimately. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to share this to Twitter, and I'm actually having a really hard time doing that. I can't even find it, which is very frustrating. Um, Unbelievable. Very strange. Doesn't help me at all. Give me 1 second. Live videos. Tremendous. Nope. Can't figure out how to do it. I'm a mess. Sorry, guys. Anyway, so the last episode I did was with a guy named Sublime. Super cool dude. We had an awesome conversation, and he was talking in particular about a pastor of his that was a New Age guy, became a pastor, and then ended up ultimately going back to being a New Age guy. And one of the things I thought was really interesting about him was that he claimed to be channeling the spirits of the Atlanteans, the lost Atlanteans, the one who died, or the ones who died rather, when Atlantis was destroyed. And so uh, that whole thing was really interesting because it got me thinking about one of my favorite guys, who is David Icke. And David Icke, for all the information that he gives out, that's fantastic information, especially his whole body of work when it comes to the reptilians. Love it. Love the guy. I've been listening to David Icke on and off since I'm 17 years old, probably. It was like him and Alex Jones were the first guys that I discovered. And um, I do think that he's probably being misled by these ancient spirits of the Atlanteans. I suspect that in reality, the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, they lie. Why would they tell the truth? And even if they are the spirits of people that were lost in Atlantis, after speaking to Mark Stevies of My Family Thinks I'm Crazy on Nephilim Death Squad, awesome episode. Highly recommend you guys check that out. There is a lot of compelling evidence that suggests that Atlantis was real and that it was one of these pre-flood civilizations that were lost in the sauce, that were worshiping all sorts of Nephilim and fallen angels. They were highly technologically advanced civilization because that is sort of what the Nephilim do, right? That's what the fallen do, is they entice human beings with knowledge and technology. And so Atlantis was maybe one of the most egregious examples of a civilization that had lost its way and then was ultimately destroyed in the cataclysm that was the biblical flood. So if David Icke is in fact channeling the disembodied spirits of Atlanteans who passed or, something of that nature, well, that certainly doesn't mean that it is a good thing. And if you look at that body of work that Ike has laid out, it's really the foundation of the New Age movement. And I think the New Age movement is one of those things where it's like a tremendous amount of truth. Otherwise, it wouldn't be enticing to people. But if we're talking percentage wise, it's 9 out of 10 truths and one very important lie. And I think that lie is what is leading people astray right now. So ultimately, the episode with Sublime was very cool, and we seem to have fallen behind a little bit. I rested upon my laurels of having several weeks worth of the Ravens Watch booked out. Then I had a cancellation or two, and it threw the whole thing out of whack. And so now I'm realizing the latter half of today, I have to get my bearings about me, start to reschedule guests, get the Ravens Watch back on track, back to where it should have been, as per, the plan. But it was Nephilim Awareness Month. It still is Nephilim Awareness Month. That actually comes from a fan. I forgot who said that. Is a great little thing to make November. And I think that we're going to do that every year. And maybe next year we'll have a lot more apparatus built around it. But from now on, November is Nephilim Awareness Month. Very excited about that. And so we doubled down on Nephilim Death Squad episodes, a couple of Neph to America episodes as well. And things for the show, I just kind of want to let you guys know where I'm at in all of this, because I believe we started the show. I started the Ravens Watch in July of this year. So that's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we're looking at four and a half, maybe going on 5 months now. I forget which day in July we started the Ravens Watch. And then Nephilim Death Squad, even fresher. It's a new baby that is not old at all in the grand scheme of things. I mean, 4 to 5 months for the Ravens Watch is very young. And then on top of it, Nephilim Death Squad is even fresher. And the shows have honestly been taken off. And so I wanted to do the Q&A today before booking another guest for the Ravens Watch, because I just kind of wanted to express to you guys how grateful I am for the direction that everything is moving in, and for the way that the shows are being received by people. It's been tremendous. I've done content for a long time. I've not had anything that I've done be as well received as the Ravens Watch and Nephilim Death Squad. People are really loving Nephilim Death Squad. And I think it's probably because it's much more interactive and it's a lot more fun. It's a lot more of sort of like a hang. Whereas the Ravens Watch is much more, what would you call it? Interview-based, information-based. Excuse me. And so we suddenly have found ourselves, Top and I, my co-host for Nephilim Death Squad, having a lot of, not fires to put out, but a lot of things to address, because it's very clear that the show is being well received, and it's very clear that there is a tremendous amount of potential. And so with that comes all kinds of things, advertising, which we suck at. I'm going to be very honest with you. We get into the flow of conversation. We have 2 sponsors currently. Shout out to Rife Technologies and shout out to Nadeau Shave Co. But the thing is, when we're rolling, it's very hard to detach from the conversation and to insert these ad reads. But that's where our head is at right now. Our conjoined head, Top and I, is just kind of organizing things, because it's all been coming very quickly. And then, of course, scheduling 2 guests a week for that, plus scheduling a guest for the Ravens Watch, and all these various things. It's actually just been a little bit of a snowball effect. Things have been picking up pace faster than we anticipated. So I wanted to thank you guys for just your contribution to the show, to both of them. It wouldn't be fun without an audience, and it's very clear that you guys enjoy the content. So thank you guys so much for watching. And hey, Top's actually in the chat, and this is a great question. So there's actually two people that I have lined up. Who is the next guest on the Ravens Watch? And one of them that I'm trying to get, but I think I'm gonna have to push him out a week or so. His name is Miguel Connor, and he knows. He's actually got an episode on the Tinfoil Hat Show with Sam Tripoli, and he has a tremendous amount of information I was never aware of, and it's about all of this esoteric, new age, occult magic surrounding Elvis Presley. Apparently, it was not unheard of. That's putting it mildly. It was actually very common to experience UFOs in the presence of Elvis Presley. He even apparently had the ability to summon these things. He was incredibly interested in magic and occultism, and just esoteria at large. And there is people that claim that that he was magic. He was a natural at everything. He might have been what people would consider an indigo child. I think he even there's rhetoric being espoused of sort of stories, people that spent time with him, of him saying things like he's not from here. So do with that what you will. But there is a lot of information. I don't want to give too much away, but I went from previously not having much of an interest at all in Elvis. The Elvis thing is a little bit weird to me. I know he married a very young girl. And so that's a lot of weird shit on its own. But I didn't know much about him. And I listened to this episode, and I highly recommend it. If you guys go back and look through, it's pretty recent in the history of Tinfoil Hat Podcast. Miguel Connor, Esoteric Elvis, or something like that is the name of the episode. Fascinating shit. I mean, really fascinating shit. Like, I wouldn't typically have gone down that rabbit hole or pursued an interaction with a guest who's just talking about Elvis if it wasn't for the fact that, like, genuinely the episode blew me away. And also, I am planning on reaching out to today Jose Galison, because I don't know anything about the Oklahoma City bombing. And that is Jose's bread and butter. For people that don't know Jose, he's one of the member of Tower Gang, and he's also the host of No Way Jose. He makes awesome content, predominantly political libertarian content, but his body of knowledge on the Oklahoma City bombing is pretty substantial. And so, as somebody who's not well versed in that at all, I'm hoping that I can get him on the show and we can kind of just walk through that. And I want him to speak to me like I'm 5, you know what I mean? And try to catch me up to speed, and then explain to me why there is this giant government conspiracy surrounding the Oklahoma City bombing. That's just one of my weak peripheral spots. I'm not too well versed in that. But speaking of, excuse me, I got like a thing with my throat today. Speaking of Tinfoil Hat, I hit a little benchmark, a little, badge on my shirt, which is Sam Tripoli of Tinfoil Hat started following me yesterday, which is phenomenal, guys, because I've been listening to Tripoli, I think probably since like 2015, and I'm a massive fan. Tinfoil Hat is up there in my top 5, I would say, top 5 podcasts. It's these days, it's actually morphed tremendously over the past few years, but Tinfoil Hat has been one of the main consistent ones. I used to be a big Joe Rogan fan, not so much these days. I think he just dropped the ball when it came to the vid, when it came to all the Q shit that was happening, his being disenfranchised with the whole flat earth community. Also, his stance on the moon landing has really kind of flip-flopped in a big way, where it's like now more than ever we have more information about the moon landing being faked, and he seems to just kind of poo-poo it. And so, especially during the vid, I noticed that the people that I was paying attention to, i.e. Dr. Robert Malone, Dr. Peter McCullough, I was taking notice of their information right away. And the same time that I was doing that, Rogan was having on I forget what the guy's name, who was basically just telling you, like, the official narrative is absolutely true. We need to be terrified of this, the vid. Sorry for the silly jargon. I'm just trying not to get fucking yanked by YouTube here. So, basically, he changed his stance on that, but it was like months too late, guys. And especially when they're rolling out, experimental jabs and all this shit, that kind of information was incredibly important. And people turned to Rogan as, I guess, sort of the it's weird because obviously he wasn't mainstream media. He's the antithesis of that, but he's very much like surface level conspiracy theorists. And so people were turning to him for answers, and he was dropping the ball. And so I'm not saying Rogan's a bad guy. I'm not saying he's co-opted, although, in my opinion, you don't get to experience that high of a level of success and not be co-opted. It just, there's no way that powerful entities haven't had a vested interest in controlling his messaging. So do with that what you will. These days I don't really listen to him, but Tinfoil Hat, still in the roster, still in the top 5. These I couldn't tell you the specific order, but it's like Tower Gang, Tony Merkel, and Tinfoil Hat Pod are up there. I don't really listen to a whole lot of content these days because I'm busy making content. And the more you listen to other people's stuff, the more it kind of bleeds over into your stuff, which is okay. But within the content creating industry, you struggle to come up with original content. And so, being influenced by other people's stuff isn't always the greatest. Although I have been listening to Liberty Lockdown with Clint Russell lately, and because I used to be a Tim Cass kind of guy, and it seems like he's really gone to a weird place with this whole Israel-Palestine shit. And so I've kind of backed away from that, and I like Clint Russell's take on things. He's incredibly knowledgeable and very good at explaining things in a way that, a simpleton like me can understand. And so I've been going in that direction more. But honestly, I think that's kind of been it. So when I tell you that Sam Tripoli of Tinfoil Hat started following me, it's a big deal for me. It's fucking awesome. So it's just such a weird direction to have come in such a short amount of time. And once again, I have the audience to thank for that. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it's just been trying to keep the momentum going, trying to keep pedaling as the pedals move faster. You know that old thing where you're on a bicycle and you're pedaling and then they get too fast and they start smashing you in the shins and shit? Kind of experiencing that, where it's like everything is moving really fast. We're doing a good job of keeping everything moving, keeping our feet on the pedals, but that's the name of the game right now. So definitely, it's been a lot of fun, and there's a lot of really cool stuff coming on the horizon, and I'm stoked about that. So let's go. We actually have JC hopped in here, and they asked an interesting question. They said, would you have Tom Palladino on to talk about Tesla? I believe that's meant to say solar energy, although it's a scalar, but I think it's probably solar. And the conspiracy cover-up of his best discoveries. Also, Tom's own experiments have been wild. Listen to his interview on Rise to Liberty to get an idea of what I mean. Imagine an NDS episode with you, Tom, and Matt Rife. Fire. Yeah, I mean, that would be awesome. I know we're in the talks of having Matt Rife back on, and it's actually to talk about some very sensitive subject matter regarding the vid. We're probably going to have to do that on Rumble exclusively because YouTube's going to yank us for that. There's no way. So keep an eye out for that. We'll be having him back on. But yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure, honestly, who Tom Palladino is. I know that in the realm of technologies, there is no shortage of people who have had their technology suppressed, especially right now. Top and I talked about it quite a bit on the episode that we did with Matt Rife of Rife Technologies, not the comedian. There is a lot of these like perpetual motion machines, where with some magnets, some copper wiring, and things of that nature, you can set in motion some aspect of the machine. And because of the way that it interacts with the magnets, it will stay in motion forever, which is tremendous. I forgot one of the guys at work, actually, because I work in a welding shop, fabrication shop, a machine shop, and we have all kinds of shit there, was saying that he wants to build himself one of these small perpetual motion devices and see if he can charge his cell phone off of it. Which, like, honestly would be tremendous, right? Because it sounds like such a small feat, but in reality, should something go wrong, right? In the conspiracy community, we're always on the cusp of a grid failure, right? Or a cyber attack, or, some sort of coronal mass ejection from the sun that's due once every fucking 28,000 years, some shit like that. If that happened, the ability to charge your cell phone would be tremendous. Obviously, beyond a certain point, if the grid goes down and it's all fire and hellscape, I guess maybe your cell phone doesn't matter. But in a situation where we just don't have the everyday electronic luxuries that we have right now, yeah, charging your cell phone would make you the big man on the block. Being able to offer that service to other people in a trade and barter system would be incredible. So I'm interested to see if we can pull that off. But yeah, there's always a suppression of technology thing going on. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but to answer your question, JC, with a little bit of digging on who Tom Palladino is, maybe watching his interview on Rise to Liberty would be very interesting. And yeah, I'm sure I could see us reaching out to him and doing another sort of suppressed technology episode, because that's always going to be in the realm of conspiracy theories. There's a gentleman on Twitter. His name is Dr. Parkinson's? Shit. I don't know if his name is Dr. Parkinson's. I forget what his name is. Something pretty close to that, though. He's a black dude. He's kind of got like a messy afro going on. He dresses in like 1920s attire. He's got a very funny voice. And now that I've dunked on him enough, he's like a mastermind. He's like Tesla reincarnated or some shit. I shit you not. He is creating in his own backyard, or his father's backyard, this giant coil machine where there's these wooden posts that he's dug into the ground, and they're all wrapped up with copper coil, and it goes into a big hexagram or octagon shape. And he is I'm not sure what he's doing. It's beyond me, but it's the first time that I've seen a dude like creating large scale Tesla-esque technology. I saw him on stage playing with electric arcs that were being generated by these two poles that he had, put into some position. This is all some sort of arc creator. And he's manipulating them with his own hand, very much like that little ball that you used to have. It was a glass ball. You could put your hand on it and the electricity would react to your touch. He's doing this. There's no glass ball involved. It's directly on him. And he's saying how, since he's grounded, it's safe. I don't know. He's playing like baby grand pianos that are from the 1920s, and he's playing old-timey music. All he ever listens to is old-timey music. What's really interesting is if you guys watch the Loki series on Disney Plus, which was interesting. I used to be a much bigger Marvel fan until they started just sucking ass. And so these days I've really fallen off. But the Loki series was interesting. And there is a character, I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but he is a variation of another character. But he's like the nerdy variation, the inventor, right? With a frilly collar and old-timey garb. And he also has like a weird kind of speech impediment. I'm not saying, but you see where I'm going with this, right? It's like, it's really weird. He looks like the dude, Dr. Parkinson's, whatever his name is. So, I'm just drawing weird correlations there. It's a good show. I just wrapped it up and it was actually pretty solid. Tanya A, thank you. Cool show. Love the guests who we have on. Thank you very much. Bushido, thank you, brother, because I can't figure out how to share my own Live stream. Go figure. Unbelievable. I had all morning to figure it out. You think I would do that? Let's see. Death, uh, big homie Death, from one of the early episodes of the Ravens Watch. He's also part of Neff Death Space, which we're running another Neff Death Space on Twitter Monday evening, probably 8 p.m., something like that. And it's where we have a bunch of people from one chat that I've kind of curated, all my favorite content creators regarding conspiracy theories, right? So we're talking from flat Earth all the way to like anti-Masonic New Age shit, and everything in between. And so Death is one of the members, and maybe he'll come hang out on this space on Monday. So look out for that, guys. Y'all think the movie The Wizard of Oz is evil? Showing it to the kids for the first time, I report my findings. I don't know if it's evil, but I remember when I was first getting into conspiracy theories, one of my favorite, because this just kind of fell into that realm, was the midgets swinging in the background. There was a midget that hung themselves on set. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but it was apparently a version of it that you could actually see this midget hanging himself and swinging back and forth in between the trees on the set. I was always a big fan, weird way to put it, but of these moments in Hollywood where there was a hidden thing in the background. You know, Disney had no shortage of that. It was like the penis on the cover of the Golden Mermaid, the Little Mermaid. There was a golden castle in the background. One of the pillars on the castle was a fucking erect cock, very vascular. And I remember finding that when I was a kid, early days of the internet. We had just talked about this kind of stuff on episode 11 of Nephilim Death Squad with Thomas of Paranoid American, or The Paranoid American. And it was like in the early days of the internet, you know, a lot of it was just finding wild hidden shit by way of like your homie whispering to you at school, like, yo, you need to go and check this out on this website. You know, it's the same thing with, like, we were talking about video games. They used to be harder, and they used to have all kinds of glitches you could exploit, and you wouldn't know how to exploit them until somebody at school was like left down, right up, R1, R2, L1, L2. Like, that was the only way that you knew how to do the shit. Now everything is different. But the Little Mermaid thing I was made aware of that kind of the same way. It was like my homie was like, dude, did you know there's a dick on the cover of the Little Mermaid? I was like, no, there's not, man. He's like, yes, there is. You have to find the original VHS copy. So, you know, long story short, I hunted down one of my buddies. It's like, yeah, I have it. We went to his house. Boom. Pulled it out. Big old dong. Cover of the Little Mermaid. And then The Lion King, where there's a scene where they're on their backs and they're looking up into the night sky, and the stars in the night sky spell out sex, right? This is old stuff, man. This is old stuff. Everybody knows this already. Maybe some of you don't, but like, this was like what got my mind going in this conspiratorial manner, right? Aladdin was maybe the most shocking one to me. In the original Aladdin, there is a scene where Aladdin is visiting Jasmine on her balcony, and he's dressed up like the pimp, you know, like the prince that he wanted to be. He's got the big hat with the feather, and, you know, the cape and the kicks, and he's trying to kick it to Jasmine, and she's not having it. And the lion, or the tiger rather, goes to cock block him, and it gets in the way and starts pushing up on him. And he goes, "Good kitty, nice kitty." That's the line. And overlapping that partially, if you turn the volume all the way up, you can hear a disembodied voice whisper, "All good teens take off their clothes." Just, huh? And when I was a kid, everybody would say, oh, that's just the animators just having a laugh at Disney. That's just, you know, these guys have a weird sense of humor. And I'm like, I don't think so. Even as a kid, I was like, nah, dude, that doesn't cut it with me. Especially when we were talking about Disney, right? With the biggest, like, they always say in set design, you're talking music videos or movies or shows, nothing is put there on accident. Everything is considered. And I don't believe for a moment that at a place like Disney that everything isn't considered. Man, how did I start talking about that? Dun, dun, dun. Bushido zombie Rogan is about the money these days. Stopped paying attention to him long ago. Sucks, but whatevs. Bravo is superior to Rogan anyway. I agree. And it was always a bummer for me to see how Eddie Bravo was made into like a punching bag by Rogan, where he would just like dunk on him and kind of call him an idiot, and then he would get like he would take Eddie's theories very personally, and he would almost have like on-screen interventions with him where it wasn't even fun for the audience anymore. It was just like, dude, this guy's supposed to be your best friend, and he was almost like a sacrificial lamb. So very, very uncomfortable to see. But yeah, I stopped paying attention a while ago too. Leech Trolls, love this guy. He prefers Rumble anyway. Yeah, that is where the episode, if we do have Matt Rife on and we do talk about the touchy subject of the vid, that's where it's going to be. Thank you, Top, and thank you, Death, Dr. Parkenstein or Stein, one of the two, not Dr. Parkins. Not Dr. Parkinson's. Not Dr. Parkinson's. So yeah, that thank you for clearing that up. So let's see if we have any more questions. I think I picked a bad time. I'm in like the middle of the fucking day. People are all having a it's just a Saturday morning. I'm sure they're with their families and shit. And I'm over here trying to get you guys to talk about schizophrenic shit in the comments. Talk to Jeremy Hambley of The Quartering. I'm familiar with The Quartering. I not very much, only peripherally. He said he'll help out any content creators with stuff like that. He made a whole video about it and everything. I've lost the context, Leech, about what the stuff was. Good girls take off their clothes in the background of Aladdin. Dude, unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, that was just... Like I said, the conventional explanation for these animators and shit just having a laugh, like it never sat well with me. I never could take that. Everybody always wanted to explain things away in a very like a simple throwaway kind of a vibe, and I don't know. It just that never sat well with me. I was talking about it on another episode, probably in several episodes we did, where like I was never the type of person who was insanely give me a second, this has to happen. Yes, Jack.
Peeing sounds, I believe the dog just peed.
Can you check if the dog just peed? You know for sure, okay?
Okay.
Herc out. And can you take this beast with you? Look, he's already tearing down my wires. All right, go on. Go on, out. Go on. And if he did pee, you know, get the mop. You'll be all right. Thank you. He didn't pee. Oh, that was really fast that you discovered he didn't pee. Something tells me this was not about the dog peeing. Can you shut the door? The dog didn't pee, guys. My son is just like, he wants to be on so bad. He's very excited. Shit. What the hell was I talking about? Oh, so basically the way that I've never been like this fantastic researcher as much as there's the conventional worldview, which everybody can agree to a lot of extent doesn't make sense. If you can't agree that it doesn't make sense, well, you're probably, you're not a very critical thinker. But when I would find something else, a lens to look through that does make sense, I would look at it and then I would go, this is compelling. And I would do a bit of digging. And once I dug to the point of satisfaction, I'm like, this is much better. Then I would kind of temporarily adopt that. And so I never really, I'm not married to the ideas. I'm not married to the beliefs. I don't really have a lot of beliefs, to be honest, because, how can you when everything's so wild? So I will adopt something for a while. And until something else comes along and knocks it out of the way, and even if it does get knocked out of the way, I only put that lens on the shelf, and then maybe I'll dust it off in the future and pop it back in and see if it still works. But yeah, the official explanations, the animators just having a laugh thing, that never sat well with me. Oh, here's the context. Hambly said he'd help with instructions on streaming on multiple platforms. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I know that if I just paid for this service, StreamYard, if I just paid for it, because there's like a free version um, that will allow you to pick one place to stream from. And then otherwise, if you pay for it, then you could do it to like fucking 5 or 6 different places. Oh, dude. So this is, yeah, Top said this. I just saw this earlier from Nick Hinton, who we are in talks with, trying to get him on the show. And Hinton said that he took a picture of the front of Payless shoes, and it says Payless shoe source, like SOURCE. And it's like a Mandela effect because I'm like, it was never Payless shoe source. It was Payless shoe store. It might have even just been Payless shoes. And then come to find out, like, that's a whole damn thing, dude. That's a Mandela effect. Is half the people remember it being Payless shoe source, and the other remainder, the actual OG timeline people like ourselves. And put that in the chat if you guys remember it differently or what you remember it as. Green Mountain Girl, as bad as Disney is, YouTube Kids is worse. Yeah, we really had to stop that. It was just, I mean, I got rid of everything. I got rid of Netflix, although admittedly I did get Netflix back recently. It was to watch one thing in particular. Now I can't even remember what the hell it was, but it was something that I wanted to see. It might have been a movie. And now I have to delete it again. That's what I do now. I delete them and I don't come back to them until later. But YouTube Kids is very strange. I noticed one of the things that they're mostly guilty of on YouTube Kids is pitching children these like hyper feminized boys, whatever it is that they're doing. If they're streamers, my son for a while, I don't even know if this is on YouTube Kids, is a fan of a show called Lanky Box. And Lanky Box is a weird fucking show because I swear it's 2 boys, right? But they're not boys. They are they're probably like 19 or 20 years old. And look, dude, they're completely fucking nerds. Like, they're super soft, super nerds. One of them's got purple hair, and they have plushy stuffed animals. It's part of their merch, but they clutch them constantly in all their videos, and they talk with them. And all they do is they just play video games like Roblox, which, by the way, is apparently one of the most egregious places on the internet for child predators. Roblox is inundated with people that are looking to bang your kid, which is fucking horrifying. So they primarily play Roblox. So that's interesting, right? Because they're kind of like these effeminate dudes, very soft, playing with children's toys. And even though Roblox is having a real child predator issue right now where there are adults in these online chats on Roblox, apparently one of the things that they're very guilty of is like trying to get your child to question their gender. To just have like an otherwise benign conversation with your kid who's moving around with this like clunky character that I don't even understand. When I was a kid, it was like every time a new video game came out, if the graphics were better, that was like an achievement, dude. Like, have you seen they went from 16-bit to 32-bit? Like, holy shit, it looks like real life now. And for some reason, all of a sudden they've regressed and they've gone to like this incredibly simple graphics, incredibly rudimentary gameplay. No storytelling whatsoever. It's just online chaos. There's no real point or flow or linearness to any of these games. But within them, there are adults communicating with children, trying to get your kids to question their fucking gender. It's very strange. So, and here are these purple-haired soft boys. That's like their number one shit is championing Roblox. So very strange. I tried not to let my kid watch any of that. We went on a kick for a while where we were revisiting old school Ninja Turtles, which was nice. We were able to do that. We watched I think it's like the 87, no, it's the 1990 live action film and the 1987 cartoon series. Which, like, I don't know. It seems like all children's media, all their cartoons have been uh the chaos and like pratfall humor has been dialed all the way up to 10. Where you used to have like a little bit of that sprinkled in with some story. Now it's just like explosion and crazy shit nonstop and that like so old school Ninja Turtles doesn't fucking do that. So he's not very interested. Um Hold on a second. I have to address something real quick. Top Lobster, please, for the love of God, don't come on my live stream. Don't come on the internet and embarrass yourself in such a silly way. I would absolutely demolish you in Super Smash Bros. If you wanted to make it Captain Falcon versus Captain Falcon, I would embarrass you. And I don't want to do that. I like the relationship we have. I imagine it would never be the same again um, after it because it's like when you think you're good at something and then somebody just fucking mollywops you and you stand no chance and it's not a competition. Uh, definitely, definitely a huge bummer. You don't want that. Uh, oh, hey, MHD. I like this guy. This guy's fucking super cool. Laughing my ass off. My dogs both scared each other and peed Thanksgiving night. Everything, of course, was making it a bit. Dude, my dog never gets scared and peed himself. I don't know how your dogs scared each other and pissed themselves. Yeah, but damn, I have a black lab. He's like probably 9 months old, maybe 10 months old now, and like, dude, nobody told me. Number one, that they're fully retarded. Number two, that they need like an ungodly amount of attention. Like they need love and affection on a regular basis. Dude, okay. This is great. I'm gonna hold this up in a very shitty way. I guess I could screen share, right? Although I'm kind of scared to screen share, but you guys are gonna love this. So this is our new Nephilim Death Squad merch that we are working on. Yes, okay, thank you. Top already popped it in there so I could find it easier. So let's do this. Hold on, I gotta go back and screen share, guys. Please forgive me. I'm an ape when it comes to this. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna share screen. So we're rolling out merch soon, is what I'm alluding to. And we have two shirts that I want to show you, and I'll show you the context, or I'll describe to you the context for the other one in a moment. So boom. So there is the first shirt, Nephilim Death Squad with the classic logo. Very cool, very crisp, and those will be released soon. And then this is the second one, and I love this one. So this is our Ronald McDonald. What would you call this? I forget what they call it. The charity house, the Ronald McDonald Children's Foundation. And this actually comes from last night's episode. So you guys are going to want to go back and watch that with Paul of Understanding Conspiracy. We go deep on the Nephilim clown aspect. And what happens is Paul starts talking about how they've been making Ronald McDonald take a back seat. You know, their classic mascot. He's been taking a back seat. And I said, he suspects the reason they're doing this is because now clowns are very much synonymous with horror films. They are terrifying. They're no longer the friendly, you know, silly Bozo the Clown kind of characters. They're here to eat you, and they feast upon child flesh. And so he says that's why he thinks they're making him take a back seat. And I said, are you talking about the same McDonald's that once every 3 or so years has an article written about them where they're talking about the acceptable levels of human DNA that have been found in McDonald's burgers? We have a laugh about it. And then he goes, the only function in which they show Ronald McDonald these days is the hand grasping the hand of a child on the logo for Ronald McDonald's children's house. I forget what the hell it's called. And I go, does the hand have 6 fingers? And then as soon as we say that, Top gets this lightning idea that this has to be made into a shirt. And I fucking agree. So here we go, guys. Ronald McDonald with, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fingers, clutching the hand of a child, interdimensional Nephilim shit with a little bit of NDS logo coming out of the chimney, the cherry on the pie. And I think these shirts are going to crush. So keep an eye out for those. These are going to drop very soon. And I can't wait for that, honestly. I'm so stoked about those. That was such a good idea. And Top, like, I mean, it was like a half an hour after the episode was over, he sent me these things. So very cool. Very, very cool. Leech Trolls of the OG timeline. I didn't know this, Top, that YouTube Kids was running ads for Israel. What the hell? Aimed at children. Aimed at children. That's wild. Did you guys see? I posted something of Shein. Shein is like a popular clothing company. You get like really cheap clothing. It's actually a Singapore-based company with a Chinese owner. Chun Yun. I forget what his name is. But they're making enamel pins, and this is in Shein Kids section, and it says have the same amount of confidence as a mediocre white man, which I arguably find funny. It's a pretty funny thing. What I don't think is funny though is that this is a fucking Singapore-based company with a Chinese owner whose number one clientele is American people, and he is sowing racial discord in our country while making a profit off of our people, and I think that is super gay. Yeah, Green Mountain Girl, no lie. I mean, I was doing a lot of bitching for a while too, and what kind of re-geared me was remembering like, hey, these kids don't have, like, they have all these luxury choices we didn't have. When I was a kid, when I was really little, the TV that was like dunk, dunk, dunk when you turn the dial, and you had like 7 or 11 channels, but like 4 or 5 of them were static. And then you had like, I don't know where you are, but in America, in New Jersey, we had like Fox 5, WB11. There was like Channel 3, which is how you got your Super Nintendo to work. And then, there was a couple other channels, the news and shit like that. And if you were lucky and you had cable, you might have had. No, we did. We had Channel 6. Channel 6 was Nickelodeon. That's right. Damn, I remember that. And so I stopped feeling hesitant about ripping away the YouTube Kids, as you're saying, you need to stop bitching about it and put your foot down. I wholeheartedly agree. It's like they still have a million options without YouTube Kids. They still have a million options without Netflix. I think Hulu's got some good. Paramount Plus had some good options because they have all the old school ones. They have like Hey Arnold and all those other kind of old school shows, the older versions of Ninja Turtles. They got a bunch of cool stuff. So Paramount Plus was pretty dope. Netflix sucks. Very, very, very terrible one. These MHD, these grown dudes playing with toys disgust me as much as myself when I watch porn. Fuck all this shit. My image and soul are more important than titties, ass, and toys. Man, I mean, the realest shit you ever wrote, because I agree wholeheartedly. We talk often on Nephilim Death Squad. We had a long conversation with Shane Cashman about the perpetual adolescence of adults of our generation, and how the media machine, the propaganda machine, is cranking out such high levels of childish shit that's aimed at adults that it's no wonder we have this epidemic of adult adolescence. And as for the porn thing, yeah, dude, that is like, hey, people, dudes in the chat, stop jerking off, guys. Save that seed, because I recently learned that a Jewish rabbi, owns Pornhub, and do with that information what you will. Let's see. Encouraging disorder constantly and very feminine dudes. No good. I agree, Death. I always tell my son, I'm like, how come in the cartoons the female character is always allowed to do like triple backflips, beat the shit out of all the bad guys, gets to wield a sword and all kinds of crazy shit, and the male characters are always either A, effeminate, or B, completely dumb as shit, like messing everything up, has a good heart, but is basically retarded. Like, that is over and over and over again. Green Mountain Girl, I think Minecraft and Roblox are aimed at autistic kids with the blocky graphics. I wouldn't be surprised. With the rise of autism and then also the rise of super simplistic gameplay. Yeah, there is something like, I remember when I was a kid, McFarlane toys were the shit. like the dude that would make all the Spawn toys, and they were like highly detailed, super dope. Big fan of Dragon Ball Z toys when I was a kid too, and they were so detailed. They were so cool, and now it's like all the toys and all the games that they get are like overly simplistic, and somehow also addicting. And I do wonder maybe they're taking advantage of the new way to market to that part of the brain that's been sort of downgraded at Top Lops. To me, as long as you're not whipping out plush toys, I'm in. Look, man, if there's going to be an audience for Top getting absolutely smashed in Super Smash, I'm about it. I'm about it. Captain Falcons. That's like two nukes hitting each other. What's the matter with This is ridiculous. Please. You're just grasping at straws. Anybody who says Mollywop cannot play Super Smash Bros. Like I said, Super Mario is my guy. The new one has Little Mac. Little Mac is the shit. I like Little Mac. He's very cool. But yeah, you'll get Mollywop, dude. And don't fucking don't pick on the language of it. That's very stupid. Very stupid of you. Do a gauntlet, Leech Trolls. Super Smash Bros, Mortal Kombat Trilogy, Street Fighter, and then cap it off with Streets of Rage. Streets of Rage was a great game. Never was good at Mortal Kombat. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I don't know that I ever pulled off a fatality in my entire life. Big bummer. My child is talking through the door very disrespectfully. And so I'd like you guys to know that I'm going to, after the show, probably, I think, beat my son. That's just, hear that. That's just what I think I'm going to do after the show is beat my kid. It's early, and I have just a lot of good energy. I've had a couple of cups of coffee, and I think to bring that down, when you drink too much coffee and you start buzzing, a good child beating would really level that out. And all of a sudden the stream's going to end. I actually said that on Twitter and got my whole account suspended for like 12 hours because I said something about being a kid. Dude, yeah, and I'm really glad to see, right? MHD needs the shirt. Leech thinks it's awesome. It comes in black. Yes, it does, guys. I have oh no, dude. I have actually seen babies born with 6 fingers and toes back when I was a maternity nurse. And I can't say much on YouTube, but there are ways that you cannot extinguish a Nephilim by traditional means. There's a very specific way that you need to get rid of a Nephilim to ensure that it doesn't regenerate. They have regenerative properties, and actually last night's episode with Paul, I think, would address that pretty well. And yes, Grimace is Nephilim. Maybe that's what they did. You know what's funny is I heard that the Macy's Day Parade had a gigantic Ronald McDonald, and just the imagery, right? After coming off the back of doing an episode with Paul of Understanding Conspiracy, the man with this awesome, well thought out, well researched theory on why the clowns are actually a sort of symbolic visage of the Nephilim. To then hearken to the Macy's Day Parade, and to see a 7-story tall Ronald McDonald looming over, thousands and thousands of people as it floats down whatever the hell avenue it is in New York City. I wonder if Top has ever been to a Macy's Day Parade. Top is actually from New York. And so that sounds actually like a nightmare, though. I always used to kind of be the guy who I like the idea of going to like Times Square for New Year's. But as soon as you start thinking of the actual like I don't know, the logistics of it, it's a fucking nightmare. And also the fact that I have to go to sleep very early all the time and would never be able to hang out. Arrested Development is an epidemic, and this comes from, if I could click on it, sorry guys, Adriano Optimistic Bear. Arrested Development is an epidemic. Yeah. Uh, and and then we do this weird thing where we make it so that adulthood is so unappealing, right? So you have that expression of adulting, right? Like, oh, adulting is so. I paid my bills today. Like, adulting sucks, or I had to go and get my oil change. Adulting sucks, and it's like, I think the biggest lie that was ever sold to children, especially of my generation, was that you want to stay young as long as possible. And I know a lot of people still agree with that sentiment. And I agree with enjoying your childhood. Don't get me wrong. You should cherish it, but there should be a much larger focus on stepping up to the plate, entering the arena, right? That is the world, making something of yourself and embracing adulthood. Because in my experience, adulthood is leaps and bounds better than childhood, where you're just number one, especially if you're in the public school system. um, Childhood is very much reminiscent of prison. It's public schools are a mirror of the prison industrial complex, and so you're flirting with, you're in a relationship with miniature prison industrial complex all the way up until 16, 17 years old, and you have no agency. You have no ability to steer your own ship in any meaningful way. And sure, adulthood is a grind, but childhood is artificial. It's You're being protected from that grind, if your parents are doing that to you. um which, there's an argument for, to a great deal. Yes, you should shelter your children, but also I think sprinkle in a decent amount of pain and suffering and hardship, and that builds character. I don't think, the thing that the helicopter parents do, where they put them in a bubble and then they keep them there, and then all of a sudden, all at once, they're released out into the world, and they realize that that's where it comes from. That's where, like, oh, adulting is hard and my pussy hurts. That's where that comes from, because you've had no brush-ins with the difficulties of life. You've had everything sort of be this cushy ride on a ship that you don't get to steer. And steering your own ship. When I was younger, I was lost in the sauce. I was homeless for 17 to 21. I had a brief run-in with having an apartment, I think at 20, but it was only like 6 months in before I lost that apartment, and because we couldn't pay the bills. And so I just didn't have. I was just living in chaos, and what I experienced was this sadness that was directly linked to my own self-worth and whether or not I was going to be able to eventually one day pick myself up and become somebody, that was worth being proud of, or make decisions that would bring me satisfaction in sort of the direction that I'm going, but also in my own ability to execute in an otherwise difficult situation, to achieve. And I don't think that I ever would have the drive that I have now if it wasn't for eating all the shit that I did back in the day. So I'm grateful for having been homeless, which, by the way, guys, when you hear that I was homeless, my mother said, you're either going to go to school or you're going to get a job. And at like 17 years old, I was like, nah. And she was like, all right, then you can kick rocks. So she was kind of calling my bluff. I decided that freedom was much more appealing, which it was. So when you hear people like Tim Pool say things like a vast majority of the homeless issue has nothing to do with people who lost their jobs and can no longer pay their bills, it has a lot to do with like young homeless people that don't want to work. And I can certainly speak for that aspect. I can't speak for everybody, but my own experience for 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 for 4 years was my own doing. And after a while, I didn't want to be homeless anymore. But guess what, bitch? Now that you're at rock bottom, in order to get out of it, you're going to have to build yourself up. And so I had a bunch of false starts and yada, yada, yada. But all of this is to say, when I met my wife, when we got married, and then shortly after that, we had a child. This was a real calling to arms. This was my opportunity to step into the arena, and adulthood is the best shit that's ever happened. Or at least engaging with adulthood in a meaningful way and grabbing the steering wheel of the ship and actually steering it is the best shit that's ever happened. And I'm leaps and bounds better as a person than I was before. And so we sell these children like this idea that like adulthood is this fucking horrible thing that you don't want to, and you want to be a child forever. And then the apparatus that's built around you by the media kind of ensures that you can stay. You can just wear fucking Avengers shirts forever. You can always go and see another superhero movie. Hey, guess what? They came out with another Super Mario. You could always play Super Mario. You can do all that stuff. Hey, guess what? You can buy bulk chicken nuggets. And you could eat chicken nuggets. You could play Super Mario. You could watch the fucking Avengers until you die, bitch. You don't ever have to grow up. And so I think now more than ever is obviously, I mean, this goes without saying, there's more value in stepping up to the plate and being a fucking adult than there ever has been, because now you have the choice to not do it. Although your body doesn't agree, you're still going to get old and fat and stupid. Leech trolls. Sorry for the rant, guys. Millennials don't want to grow up. We had the best childhood because we were the generation that lived the transition from analog to digital. Best of both worlds, easily exploitable. Yeah, we were talking about that, about how this was with Shane Cashman. This idea that the world used to forget about you. That was very much a notion, right? It was like you were living in your heyday when you were a teen in your early 20s, and then you had a kid, and then you got older, and the world began to forget about you. And you didn't understand the new cartoons, you didn't understand the new technology, all this shit. And like to an extent, we still have that to a degree, but now it's like the world is certainly not forgetting about us, especially millennials, right? I was born 1990. I am the definitional fucking 90s baby. Fight me. Nobody is more 90s than me, unless you were born, you know, from January to July of 2090, because I was born July 7th. So I'm definitional 90s baby. And I very much, that's my experience, is that society has definitely not forgotten about me. And it almost feels like the world is still catering to me. It's still aiming at me. Everything that comes out in the movies, every show that's made, every remake, every video game that's rebooted is all aiming at me. And that is certainly not the experience of generations prior. I'm sure you can make an argument that the 80s experienced that to a degree, but for us, it's much more aggressive. I will rabbit tricks are for kids. Enjoy the tricks when young. It's time they grow up. Yeah, and even that, right? It's like, how many millennials will talk about, like, well, what do we do? We'll wake up in the middle of the night. We'll make ourselves like a bowl of cereal. Half of us can't cook. We're fucking retarded. And then, of course, there's the massive declining rate in birth that we're experiencing. So, like, we're not even having kids. We're not even. I think that parenthood is a massive catalyst. Absolutely necessary. It shakes you into waking up and realizing this is no longer about you, right? This is now about another generation. So much so that your own focus is no longer you, and it's about another generation. And without having children and just staying attached to the internet and to shows and movies, it never has to stop being about you. You could always just be a little baby. And I also think there's probably something to the fact that in the 80s and 90s, so much of us grew up without fathers. My father wasn't around. And I think that that's another kind of, perfect recipe for just never letting go of like the thing that happened in childhood. And I think there's a lot of that too. It's like, is that messaging of like staying in touch with your inner child, is that right? I'm not so sure that that's right anymore. Maybe you do have to hang that little motherfucker up and like move on. And just because you had some trauma in your childhood, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's psychological aspects that are good and beneficial about going back and dealing with that trauma and mending that little spiritual kid, as if within us there truly is this like tiny version of us that's still like, there's still that 7-year-old kid in me. Like, that's a cute story, but in the end, it might have been more damaging to fucking entertain that than it has been a positive, a net positive. Oh, yeah, we'll go to Twink Skull in a minute there. Solid name, Twink Skull. Tanya A. Public schools equals learn to comply. Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of background information that's like, these are Rockefeller school systems that were, or Rothschild school systems, whichever family it is that starts with R and O. and it was about creating obedient factory workers. This was during the Industrial Revolution when public schooling was developed, and that's why we operate on a bell system, just like the factory workers do. That's why we are, doing things that are reminiscent of a production line. Sitting at your desk and working with your hands, and a bell tells you when it's time to move on to the next station. And so, yeah, I agree with that, and that's why it didn't work out well for me. I was not. Give me 1 second. Are you knocking? What's going on? It's okay if Herc drank from the toilet. Please no more knocking unless it's an emergency, okay? Thank you. Herc drank from the toilet, guys. Put some water in his bowl. And the next knock that I'm going to get is Herc did pee on the ground this time. But yeah, definitely very much about obedience. I was not good at public school when I was a kid. I did not like the sit down. I had a problem with authority figures. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was a kid, and the doctor told my mother that I had a real issue with authority figures, which, looking back at the track record of my life, I would agree. Maybe my mom did not beat me. She should have beat me. Twink Skull question: did the Nephilim engage in hardcore bareback anal? Yes. Absolutely, they did. And that's even kind of a true thing, right? Because there's all kinds of stories about the Fallen and the Nephilim engaging in homoerotic activity. So yeah, I would say absolutely, Twink Skull. Excellent question, number one. And number two, they certainly did engage in hardcore bareback anal. Basically, same thing happened to me. This is Leech Trolls. I was homeless for 6 years because I just wanted to party and tour in my punk band. Felt that whole thing big time. Yeah, well, dude, and what I want to say to that, and Leech, maybe you can echo this sentiment, is it was awesome. It was awesome to not have to do what people... I just said I had a problem with authority, right? This was the ultimate freedom from that. I was having a blast, dude. There was a period of time where I was... so I got a house. I was able to stay at a house, rather, with a heroin addict. And he was super creepy. Really creepy. But, sleeping in the streets was not it. And so... what was awesome about that was shortly after he took me in, and first he took my cousin in, who was also homeless for the same reasons, although he actually did have a very shitty upbringing. He was able to sort of leverage his relationship with this dude to be like, hey, my cousin also needs a place to stay. And what was great about that was shortly after I arrived there, the heroin addict went to prison. It was awesome. And for a while, a few months before the electric company figured it out that we weren't paying the bills already, because we didn't pay shit. And it was also summertime. So even when the electricity did go out, it was still summertime. So it was okay. We had house parties every day, dude. Every day. We'd wake up fucking 11, 12, 1 o'clock, right, in the afternoon to somebody knocking on the door. And it would be the homies with a bunch of blunts and a 30-pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon, Natty Ice, right? Just cheap fucking piss water beer. And dude, it was every day was a party. We were burning shit in the backyard. Man, we were doing a lot though. We were selling drugs out of that house, all types of shit. I have one quick story for you guys. This is I love this. This is great. I love interacting with the chat. Very strange episode of the Ravens Watch, but I love this. So, I used to sell weed out of this house because I was homeless and it was making me little extra cash. And I guess for a while the police had been watching the place, right? So one day I hop in the car with my buddy. We're going to go to the convenience store down the road. It's called Quick Check. And I had this notion, I remember I had it in my fucking titty pocket for some reason. Take the sack of weed out, leave it on the table. And I'm glad I did, because on the way to Quick Check, my buddy, just young and spunky dumbass, was flooring it in his Acura Integra blowing through all the back road stop signs to get there, just whipping it like a madman. And turns out we had been tailed by the cops in some sort of big white Ford pickup truck, unmarked. We pull into the parking lot. They box us in, immediately yank us out of the car. I'm like 18, maybe 17. And they start, interrogating us. Interrogating us is a strong word. They start shaking us down separately. So my buddy who was whipping around the Integra, he folds and just starts crying, dude. And he immediately says, Dave has, the Raven has weed. They didn't call me that back in the day. And so, they all surround me and they're like, look, dude, we know what's going on. We know how hard it is for you. We don't want to throw you in jail. Where's the weed? But I did not have the weed on me. So I was telling them like, I don't have it on me. And they're thinking that I'm lying. So they're getting really, really aggressive. These are big men, big burly dudes. And I'm a very small guy. But I just had I don't give a fuck energy when I was a kid. And so they're screaming in my face. They're like, we're going to make this hard for you. You're going to go to jail tonight if you don't give us a da-da-da-da. And I'm like, I don't have any weed, dude. And he's like, I got one more chance. Give me what you got or you're going to jail. Or something about calling the dogs. I think he said he was going to call the dogs. And he's pointing in my face like this. And that's it. This is the stance that he took. And it's like he's letting that finger hang out there for 10 seconds, dude. I'm up against a brick wall. It looks just like this. Quick Check had bricks outside. I'm sitting there and I'm looking at him and he's looking at me and he's pushing me up against the thing and he's got a finger at me. And I don't know what to tell him anymore. I'm out of information. I don't have weed. So I have a great idea and I'm very impulsive. So as he's staring at me, I fucking do that. I snap like a wizard that's casting a spell. And I put my finger in his face and so he's pointing at me and I'm pointing at him and we're doing the Spider-Man meme back and forth to each other. And he didn't like that at all. He freaked the fuck out and screamed at me. But ultimately, I didn't have weed and he let me go. And they got me another time. And I went to jail for a short while because of that. Not because of the weed, but they did get me. So, yeah, but Leech, to your point, I think it was great. 6 years is a little bit long of a stretch, but that's an emergency. I don't remember the emergency anymore, Tanya. I'm so far from the mark. And you're a teacher. Oh, man. I am just floored with sometimes the people that are listening. Tanya A is a teacher. And holy crap. My next door neighbor, when I was homeless, it was a duplex. And the neighbor on the other side of the wall of the house that I was squatting in, eventually everything went out. The electricity was done. We stopped paying the bill. The water stopped running, all that shit. And she was a solid one. She would bring us food and stuff. I think she was an elementary school teacher and she felt for us on a really high level. I remember she bought us Christmas decorations and stuff while we were there in December. The house was very cold. She bought us hand warmers and stuff. She would bring us, food. Lovely lady. Awesome. And she never called the cops once while we were partying super hard right on the other side of the wall. Incredible. Love that woman. The Sodomites were inspired by the Nephilim. Yes, absolutely. Adriano Optimistic Bear. I wonder if you're one of Owen Benjamin's fans. The dog. Yes. Absolutely. So yeah, guys, I mean, we're coming up on hour and 20 mark. This is really awesome. I'm glad so many people, contributed and asked questions and talked in the chat. I was worried that this was going to be, I have the ability to ramble like a madman. It's always much more fun when people contribute. I was worried that nobody was going to contribute at all. I wonder if he ever did, to Tanya's point, give the dog water. I don't think it's an emergency if he's drinking from the toilet. He'll be all right, right? Isn't that a thing? They're like the water in your toilet is much cleaner than the water that comes out of your sink. I remember those studies being paraded around a few years ago. But yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in. This week, I don't even know what's going on this week. I know we probably got 2 episodes of Nephilim Death Squad. We are going to be making a guest appearance on Mark Stevie's show. My family thinks I'm crazy. We've been invited on another show, I believe, but I don't want to let that one out of the bag because I don't know if it's going to happen yet. The scheduling conflictions are happening. But if you guys want to support us, one of the ways you could do that is, well, one, be there when the merch drops because we got some bangers of merch. But two, Top and I recently had a appearance on Charlie Robinson's show, Macroaggressions. And right now, it appears from where I'm sitting that it's one of the best shows that he's released. People actually love it. The numbers are doing incredibly well. So if you want to support us, going over and making a big deal about content that we've made with other people is definitely a good move. It's very important that people think that I'm cool. It's very important that people think that I make good content. So please let them know that we did. And so, yeah, you can go check that out. Go and follow us on Nephilim Death Squad on YouTube and also on Twitter. And if any of you are looking for razors, dude, I'm sorry, I just got to say this real quick. I just had to do an ad read for Nadeau Shave Club, and you can go to NadeauShaveCo.com. That's NADEAU shaveco.com, and buy yourself some straight edge razors. Use code word Nephilim at the checkout. You'll get 15% off. I had to do an ad read for them, and I shit you not, guys. I can ramble like this forever. It took me like 7 takes. It took me 7 takes where I'd be like, that's code word NEF, mother. God, are you dog? Yeah. And then I'd have to do it again. And I like, no shit, like 7 times I'm screaming to myself like a maniac. And it took so long when I came out. My son was like, how'd the episode go? I was like, I didn't do an episode, dude. That was daddy doing an ad read. And I almost had a stroke. So if you want to support us there, you can go and use promo code Nephilim at checkout. That's all I got. Thank you guys so much for listening. Keep an eye out for the rest of the content that's coming. And thank you guys so much for everything that you've been doing. Thank you guys so much for eating up the content the way that you've been doing and saying all the nice things. People say wonderful shit. Really, it's like we can't go do an episode without seeing strangers say this is the best show that we've ever seen. Just crazy shit that I'm like, really, the best show? But thank you guys so much. Honestly, it's been huge, and it really does mean a lot to me. I've been a content creator for 6-7 years, and for it to be finally being so well received, it feels like a miracle. It really does. It's wild, and so. A lot of big things to come. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. And until the next episode, peace out, guys.